So I've been illustrating a children's book and working on that project, and now I have a break because I want to run the book dummy and some of the color studies and that by some critiquers. And so I need to get them to the critiquers and get the comments back and look at them before I continue. And so I thought I would work on painting a watercolor painting, which is a really nice break from doing the illustrations because illustrations are tiny and in the detail. And with watercolor, I can work half sheet watercolor paper and really free up myself and have some fun with brush strokes and with just watching the magic of the watercolor. And so I've got to go through some of my photos and decide what I want to paint in the watercolor. I've gone through the pictures that I have on my iPad, and I like this picture of this Peruvian Porter and want to paint his portrait in watercolor. And so I've blown up my sketch from my sketchbook and I've transferred it to the watercolor paper. And I have, now I'm just going through and really refining the drawing. I'm looking at the photo, seeing if I have all the angles right, going through and making sure the drawing is exactly the way I want it. I really love the process of drawing, and this is just another chance to check the drawing and think about doing the watercolor. And I'm drawing where the light is and where the shadow is so that I'm aware of that when I do the watercolor. These are all things that kind of help me think about the whole process as we go. My husband and I went with a bunch of friends down to Peru. We were going to hike the Inca Trail. You fly into Cusco and it's like the plane takes a sharp turn and then lands in this airfield up in the middle of the mountains. You have to stay in Cusco for a day and a night so your body can adjust to the altitude. And you drink some coca tea to help you adjust and prepare for the hike. It was an amazing hike, hiking up at an altitude which I am not used to, even though we live in the Rocky Mountains. You had still a higher altitude. There came a point I was hiking really slow and one of the porters came by and said, "Slow down." And I thought to myself, if I slow down, I'll be stopped because I was hiking so slow. You can take this little baggie of coca tea, and that's supposed to help with the altitude, and I had that bag and I had it on the hike. We were hiking just carrying a small backpack, and when we were on the trail, people would yell and say, "Oh, Porter's coming," and we would step off the trail so that these porters carrying these big backpacks with food and tents and everything that they were going to carry of ours and rush ahead and set up camp for us. It was amazing to watch them. A lot of them were just in sandals as they ran by up the trail. So it was a fun opportunity to meet two of these porters that were on their way back home after carrying all these supplies. And this porter that I'm drawing the picture of, he asked if I had any coca leaves, and I had that bag of coca leaves in my backpack, and I said, "Yes, I do," and gave him the whole little baggie, and he thanked me. I asked him if I could take his picture, and he posed for me. So I thought he had a wonderful face, and it would be a good opportunity to draw him in the future. It was an amazing trail. Part of the trail is called Dead Woman's Pass, just where you want to hike, on a pass called Dead Woman's Pass. There was a place where they got the, it was supposed to be where you could see your first view of Machu Picchu. And when we got there, it was all covered in clouds. And I just got my camera out of my backpack and kind of adjusted the lens and the focus and everything, and just kind of waited, just in case I had the opportunity to take a picture. And the clouds parted. I snapped 2 pictures, and the clouds covered Machu Picchu again until we got down lower on the hike. It was amazing to hike along this ancient trail and think about the people that had walked this trail centuries before I had walked on it. Amazing to see the rock work once we got into Machu Picchu and see how tight it was and how perfect it was, and an irrigation system where they could just go out their front door and get water. Knowledge of the stars and the wonder of a night sky, which we so seldom are able to see now in our civilization. So these are all the things that I'm trying to put into this portrait, along with trying to draw it and measure things with my pencil while I sketch, and thinking about the ancestors of this man. I don't mind if my pencil lines show through my watercolor. I think it helps show the process. But I am using my kneaded eraser to stamp up some of the graphite, because if there's too much graphite, it'll get picked up in the watercolor and make the painting a little dull. So I'm just going through and making sure I pick up some of the graphite. So here's a little quote from Robert Henry, his book, The Art Spirit. "The wise draftsman brings forward what he can use most effectively to present his case. His case is his special interest, his special vision. He does not repeat nature." So your painting becomes a new creation. So I've got a piece of plastic here, and I've got my sketch on watercolor paper, and I am going to tape this piece of watercolor paper on this plastic so that I can tilt my watercolor so the water will run down. And it's nice to have it taped because it leaves a nice finished edge, which looks really nice when your watercolor is finished and you take that tape off. This also kind of protects my watercolor paper. So as I'm moving it around, it's got this hard backing on it, so it protects it a little more. So I want to make this masking tape really thin. So just going to cut it as thin as I can along here. Slide it down evenly. I'm going to use this instead of masking fluid. So I'm going to just rip these up one at a time. And I'm going to kind of look and see what we got here. And just bring this down. Curve it as I go. And when I get it where I want it, then I'm going to rip it off. So I've got to let this wash completely dry. This one's got to dry a little. This was with cerulean blue and quinacridone sienna, and I just let those different colors run down there, making sure I left that white. Got a little light rim there. Maybe I'll come in now and just put the color of that hat in there. Another quote by Robert Henry. There are times to hold a note, and there are times to change it. Some painters, addicted to the habit, change their notes with the ticking of the clock. It is all a matter of measures of silence, measures of noise, measures of color, some broad, expansive, and others quick and short. Lines which move swiftly, fluently, softly, scratch, halt, jump, all kinds of lines for all kinds of purposes. The thing you have in hand is a construction. The means are used in the measures the subject demands. The value of a picture rests in its constructive beauty, its story, the fact that it is about a man, a boy, a landscape, an event which transpires, is merely incidental to its creation. The real motive, the real thing attained, is the revelation that what you can perceive beyond the fact. So the facts of this drawing are how far down the head do we draw the eyes, and how wide are the eyes on the head, and how do I get the shape of that hat just right, and how do I put the wrinkles in, and how far is his neck down, and how far does the sweater come out from the neck, what is in his background. These are all facts, but beyond the facts, you have other things that you want to put into the painting. So the fact of the matter is that there's a plastic bag around this man's neck that has numerous strings in it. But what I'm trying to do is reproduce a certain feeling with this watercolor. So you've got the facts and you've got the feelings, and you've got all the things that you experienced while you were hiking the Inca Trail. And you hope that all of these things will go into this watercolor painting and add to it. And you think about where the light's coming, where the light's hitting, where do I want to leave the white of the paper because that is going to be the brightest, how dark are you going to put the top of the hat, are you going to leave that nice little rim right along the edge of the brim of the hat? These are the facts. And then when you reproduce all those facts and get them the way you want them, you're hoping that there's a spirit in your watercolor painting, that some of the feelings that you had while you were hiking along that trail come out in the painting, that when the big rainstorm hit and just drops of rain were coming down and hitting you on that trail, that's something to remember and put into this watercolor painting. The people that you met on the trail, the people that you passed on the trail, the importance that the porters were to this hike for you, because without them there is no way that you could have made it. You would get into camp so totally exhausted and tired, and there would be somebody that had gone on ahead of you, prepared food, and got it all ready for you, and so you could just go and eat and then kind of collapse in your tent and rest till you had to get up for the next day and start again. So the facts of the painting, and then the atmosphere and the feeling that you want to put into the watercolor. And hopefully the two combine to make a very nice painting.